Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of Sometimes All It Takes to See Is to Look. This will be the last and final part, Chapter 16, entitled Progress. Shouta had been ready to rip into Nezu for not telling him about that god-forsaken quirk. But as per usual, the rat had been aware of his and All Might's conversation, and was prepared with an apology when Shouta stormed into his office. It was a pretty good apology, too. Shouta had to give him that. Good enough, in fact, that it dispelled the majority of his anger. "I wasn't aware of the way All Might went when choosing Midoriya-kun," Nezu had said, a frown fitted on his snout. "Nor did I realize with what disparity from my assumptions they met. I assure you, Aizawa-kun, had I known, I would have taken a different route and informed you of your student's circumstances prior." So, Shouta wasn't mad, not too much at least. He still made sure Nezu made damn sure to tell him things like this. Hopefully this doesn't happen again. It's a nightmare. Immediately. He also made sure the rat would punish All Might accordingly for his prior action, whether it be sensitivity training, actually getting a teaching license, and being downgraded to an assistant in the meantime, or something of the sort. Nezu agreed readily. Things were looking up, and continued to do so as he got informed that Midoriya had set an appointment with a therapist in a few days. Shouta would make sure to check on his student after a few sessions and see how it's going. His first appointment had gone okay. In fact, Izuku could almost say it went great. His therapist was a really nice lady named Obara Yuka, with a really interesting quirk that let her see emotions as colors. He asked a ton of questions about it. And when he stopped himself and apologized for rambling, she answered all of his questions. She said it took a while to figure out which color ties to which major emotion, and how different shades and tones of the color show more complex or underlying ones. So cool. And then said that if asking them made him happy, and the recipient was okay with it, she was, there was no need to apologize. He was really nervous at first, but when she hadn't gotten mad at him for that, shut up, Deku, he was able to relax a bit. The first session ended pretty soon after that. They just got to know each other. Was it weird that Izuku was strangely looking forward to the next one? The appointment was on a weekend, so the only bad part of his day was going home to an empty house. Not that it was bad, but he kind of wanted to talk to his mom some more. He hadn't had a real conversation with her since the last time, and that didn't quite go the way he wanted. But he understood. His mom was busy providing for him and had to work a lot. Actually, that was something he mentioned in passing to his therapist at his next session. He was going once a week, until further notice. "I mean, I guess I get it. She's busy and doesn't have time to talk. It's okay." Obara-san tilted her head towards the side, and tapped her pen against the pad of paper. She had yet to write anything, and Izuku was curious when she would. She didn't say anything as Izuku fidgeted. "I mean," Izuku continued to fill the silence, "I feel better about it, but I wish she had done something when I really needed her to. I don't know. She kinda avoided talking about it, and it was sort of frustrating." Izuku wished she wasn't so frustrated. She tried her best, after all. As if reading his mind, Obara-san said, "It's okay to be upset, you know." She raised her eyebrows slightly as she looked at him. "Parenting is hard, and easy to get wrong, but that doesn't make your concerns any less valid." "I guess, but I know she loves me and tries her best. Izuku can't help but defend his mom. He loves her." "Just because she loves you doesn't make her mistakes magically disappear. And being hurt doesn't make you a bad son. It's just something you both need to work through." Izuku wasn't sure if he believed that, but he promised he'd try. It made sense, he supposed. A few weeks passed by with very little of note. Izuku was partially surprised, given how their year has gone, and almost waiting for the other shoe to drop. Nothing has happened, though, and he begins to relax back into a routine. Aizawa-sensei checks on him every once in a while, but there have been no more dreaded meetings. The one with All Might wasn't bad, but it was weird. It feels nice for someone else to know the secret of One for All, and he was just glad he didn't break All Might's trust for being the one to do it. He also was surprisingly happy to have All Might apologize for what he said that day. Izuku didn't realize how much it had been weighing him down. It was nice to be free of that. Although the fact that he couldn't only meet with All Might was strange. Izuku supposes that's just something he will have to get used to. If it comes with the fact that Sensei knows about his quirk now, then he must admit it is almost a relief, even if he was slightly opposed to it at first, having it been a secret between the two of them. He sincerely hopes he doesn't have to divulge his past to anyone else. Sensei and his mom were enough, even if one of those times was his choice. Not that he's holding anything against Aizawa-sensei, but it was very much unexpected. Things with his mom are fine. They are just the usual, and Izuku is probably the only one who feels like something's shifted, even if he can't put a name to it. Izuku shakes his head as he walks towards his classroom. Now is not the time to delve into that. That's what therapy is for. Anyways, he has much more pertinent stuff to think about, like this. With a deep breath, Izuku makes his way to the desk in front of his. Hey, Monoma. What? Izuku wrung his hands together nervously. He wasn't super happy with Monoma after he had announced to the class his and Bakugo's relationship. Another thing his therapist wanted him to try, thinking of Kacchan as Bakugo instead. Why? Obara-san looked at him gently. She wasn't really prone to big shows of emotion. I think it would help you distinguish between the person who was your friend and the person who bullied you. But they're the same person? Maybe so. But would you give someone who hurt you a nickname like that now? Izuku frowned. Well, no, but it's different. Why? Because... Izuku paused. Because we were friends. Okay, so Kacchan is the name of your friend. Yeah, but Bakugo hasn't been friends with you for a while. Izuku scrunched his eyebrows together. He stopped, then thought about it. After a few minutes of silence, Obara-san spoke again. It might seem like a useless distinction, but separating your childhood friend as Kacchan from your childhood bully as Bakugo might help you separate yourself from him. She smiled softly. You really admired him, right? And still do? I guess, yeah. Izuku looked down. He can't help it sometimes. He's just known him for so long, and he'll make a great hero one day. Even if he wasn't exactly a hero to Izuku. It's okay because he'll be a hero to everyone else. Just not Izuku. Never Izuku. You didn't deserve that, though. Izuku weeped. Had he said that out loud? How much? Obara-san chuckled lightly. That's all right, Izuku. We don't have to talk about that yet if you don't want to. I just want you to know that you deserve to have a hero, too. You deserved, and still deserve, to be saved. Izuku looks to the side and studies the floor. It's a boring cream-colored carpet, but it has nice flecks of gray, too. I'm supposed to be a hero. I don't need to be saved, Izuku mutters. Even heroes need help sometimes. Izuku tilted his head to the side. He knows that this is true. It's something Aizawa-sensei mentioned. But getting help now is different than getting help then. It was quirkless then. Maybe. That's why I'm here, at least. But not from a silly childhood bully. They have more important things to do. It's not just a silly childhood bully. You were hurt, Izuku. The circumstances of the pain did not make it hurt less, no? Izuku shrugged. Obara-san simply smiled. It's okay if you don't believe me. Yet. She pointed a finger. That's what you're here for, after all. What you said to me and Bakugo the other day wasn't true. Monoma rolled his eyes. So what? Are you telling me you weren't friends with him or that he's not a bully? He scoffed. I find both of those hard to believe. Be honest. Even if he doesn't end up as your friend, at least he will know the truth, and at least you tried. Bakugo was a bully, sure, but he bullied me. Izuku fiddled with his fingers. We were friends once, but not anymore. I'm not telling you this for any other reason than to avoid a misconception, he finished quickly. Monoma's eyes widened, marginally, and the smirk was almost paused on his face, like he wasn't sure how to react. I noticed you don't sit with anyone for 1A at lunch. The blonde jerked back, a bit at the non-sequitur. Why would I? But Izuku barreled on. He needed to get it out before he lost momentum. If you want, you're welcome to sit with me and my friends. Believe it or not, no one here hates you or thinks they're better than you. And I can guarantee that most would be happy to be your friend. Monoma blinked, twice before scoffing again. Like I would sit with you 1A losers. Izuku simply shrugged. It's up to you. Just know that you're welcome. Then he sat down, leaving Monoma with an almost conflicted look on his face. Izuku breathed out slowly, trying to calm his nerves. It's not that talking to classmates gets him anxious, but Monoma has been so antagonistic towards him specifically. Izuku put the option out there, so there's nothing more he can do to make Monoma like him. It's just a matter of preference. Or so his therapist says. Shouta kept an eye on his students before class started, as usual, specifically, though, watching Midoriya and Monoma interact. Monoma's breach of privacy has been addressed, but he wasn't sure anything stuck with the kid. He was egotistical and crude and yet so very insecure. He was definitely on the kids who probably need therapy list, of which only Midoriya has been marked off. The queue was getting quite long now. So he kept an eye out, not wanting or even expecting it to escalate to him needing to intervene, but worried nonetheless. Midoriya was beginning to get into a much healthier mental state as time went on, but progress is by no means linear, and he doesn't want anything to happen to hinder his growth. Shouta really shouldn't have been surprised at the polite, albeit nervous, proposition for Monoma to join Midoriya at lunch. The kid collected friends like Pokemon cards, and Monoma was no exception. He'd probably be a rare one, too, something heard of, but really hard to get. Shouta is immensely proud of his student. His pride only grows as he lurks in the lunchroom later that day, Midoriya is smiling brightly, flanked by great kids who actually care about him just as much as he cares about them. As Shouta observes, he sees Monoma glance almost longingly at Midoriya, looking conflicted, before slinking off to wherever he eats lunch. That's okay. Ultimately, it's his choice to make friends or not. But Shouta will do his best to encourage him. Being around kind people is the best way to grow in your own kindness, which Monoma could greatly benefit from, anyways. Much to Shota's immense surprise and amusement, he sees his young protege approach Midoriya's table nervously. Shouta feels a grin creep onto his face as Shinsu is pulled, literally physically pulled, Uraraka is stronger than she looks, to sit with them. After a few minutes of uncomfortable shifting, his shoulders become lax, and Shouta can almost hear the laughter from the others when he lets out some snarky remark. As soon as lunch ends, Shouta makes eye contact with the student and beckons him over. Midoriya approaches with a smile still lingering in his eyes. "Yes, Sensei?" "You doing okay, kid?" Shouta asks carefully. Midoriya bobs his head excitedly. "Better than ever," he smiles shyly. "Thanks to your help." The man shakes his head. "Not thanks to me. Without the effort you put in, your willingness to grow and heal, my discoveries would have been pointless." A little blush rises on his student's cheeks. "Thanks, Sensei." Shouta reaches his hand out and gently ruffles Midoriya's very untamed curls. "I'm proud of you, kid." Shouta knows he doesn't tell his students that enough, if the big, watery smile he receives in reply is anything to go by. But Midoriya is one who definitely deserves to know just this once. Shouta sees it coming, and reluctantly, not so much anymore, he's gotten way too used to them, accepts a quick hug. Midoriya pulls away with an almost sly smile on his face, and Shouta waves him away. "Now, shoo, get to class before the other miscreants think a villain got you." Midoriya laughs even as he turns away. "Okay, Sensei." Shouta watches as he takes off down the hall slightly faster than allowed, and a moment later feels a familiar arm drape itself over his shoulder. "What's got you so smiley, Sho?" He glances at Hizashi before rolling his eyes and detangling himself from the one-way hug. He walks the same way as Midoriya did, heading back to his classroom and his students. "Nothing," he calls back, even as he fights to keep the soft smile off his face. A timid knock on his office door interrupts his grading a few days later. "Come in," he says as he opens the door, still looking down at the papers in his hand, not entirely expecting anything important. He looks up in surprise when he hears a voice that he genuinely doesn't, at least not hear. "Midoriya said I could trust you." It's said as merely a statement, but Shouta can sense the question behind it. He sighed, not in exasperation, and opened the door wider. "Come on in, Todoroki. Let's talk." All right, listeners, this concludes the fic. Sometimes all it takes to see is to look. I personally really like the way the author wrapped this one up. I think they did an incredible job with showing that Midoriya's trust in Aizawa leads to Aizawa being able to help out Todoroki as well. And I really like the inclusion of the therapy aspect to this too. Midoriya coming to terms with some of the relationship aspect between him and his mom. While it's not fully resolved, it's something that is being worked on. So I really think the author did a really nice job with this one. I think it was a unique perspective on the whole Aizawa finding out the truth Bakugo and Midoriya's past, so let me know your thoughts and reactions to this fic as well. And as always, thank you so much for listening.